Oh, yeah, we are going live here on Strong Style. I am one of your hosts, John, the Outlaw Rocha. My hair is so long now, I can't even put the hat on anymore. I can't even put the cowboy hat on anymore because it's just bursting out of the seam. So I'm putting on this LA hat for now. Thank you all so much for downloading this episode and joining us live. We'll definitely be looking at your super chats and your Streamlabs as we go along. But first, let me introduce my co-host of Strong Style every week, emanating out from down there, Orlando. He is a big Tampa Bay Buccaneers fan. That's Aaron Turner. Aaron, how are you, man?
I'm doing great, man. Not a Bucks fan, just have the Bucks hat. But yeah. So you were talking about your hair being too long. I got so annoyed, that my hair was so long that I just took it all the way, guys.
Wow! Holy crap!
I'm so bald under here, and I got so scared that we were going to get called back into work, and people were going to see me like completely bald because I always rock a full head of coiffed hair. But real quick, if you guys are in Georgia and you're listening to this, our friends in Georgia, God bless.
Oh,
God
yeah,
bless
true. Yeah,
God
this
bless.
is weird that this is all happening. Like like everyone is in here and seeing what's going down, and you start to wonder, like, well, are you really going to put yourself through this? Are you really going to open up these theaters? Are you going to open all this kind of stuff? Anything can happen at this point. You worry about how people are going to take it and who's going to get affected by it, what's going to happen, things like that. So you get a little concerned that is going to be the norm of people coming back to going to the theaters or going to these situations and putting themselves a little bit in harm's way. It's a little scary, but this is you see things happening and certain people are doing them for whatever reason, and it's going down. So there you go.
Yeah, to me, it's not scarier than a Shinsuke Nakamura kick to the face, as we'll talk about, for goodness sakes.
Yeah, that is what we are going to be talking about. It is Shinsuke Nakamura. He is taking on Kota Ibushi here at Wrestle Kingdom 9 for the IWGP Intercontinental Championship. This is a maddeningly awesome match that I was blown away by. Couldn't understand how I had not seen this one before or what was happening in my life that I had not watched this show, but this match before. But what an incredible match. We're going to get into the history of it. It's what happened during the match and then the legacy of the match afterwards for both of the wrestlers in this match. But what is your experience with IWGP? Certainly, I've seen a lot of people talk about it. A lot of people get into it and recommend matches from their recommend Wrestle Kingdom matches. I saw the AJ Styles Nakamura match only because people recommended me to watch it from Wrestle Kingdom 10, which is a year later after this one. What is your relationship with it?
I'm not as well versed as I should be, and that's probably going to lose me a lot of internet cred. I definitely respect New Japan Pro Wrestling and what they do and their stamp in the wrestling business. I think that the IWGP Heavyweight Championship is the second most important heavyweight championship in all of wrestling, next to the WWE title. So I'll just put that right there. But yeah, I mean, you can't not respect the legacy. And I'm like you in that sense. Like, I only know from what people tell me. I tried to subscribe to New Japan World. And it was a complete cluster.
Yeah.
I hear they've since, like, it's way easier now. You can probably do it quite easily. I just haven't got back to it. But anything someone tells me to watch, whether it's like Jericho Omega or Okada and Tanahashi, or something like this, Nakamura and Ibushi, I'll go back and watch it because I definitely like to see competition. It doesn't matter to me that they don't speak English or sometimes the commentators don't speak English. I don't care. It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
I just want to see good wrestling.
Yeah, that's a fair point. Let me check something here. Sorry, I might have just set us up in a situation. Let me see if I've got it right because I'm not seeing the comments again. And I may have set us up in can we take just a second? Let me. There it is. Okay, I'm seeing the comments now. Sorry, I thought I wasn't seeing the comments. There it is. Kota is V from Tommy Tom. He's putting that up there saying Kota is V. So, yeah, me too. Like I said, you have way more experience probably than I do with this, but I did some research, looked at some stuff, and of course, he is the name of the show. That is Strong Style, Shinsuke Nakamura. It is. I really wanted to do something that was different. Kind of had a name that didn't fit a wrestling term that we had heard over and over again. But Strong Style was something out of New Japan. When Shinsuke came to NXT and to WWE, I remember just immediately falling in love with this guy. And then I went back and watched his matches, and I was like even more in love with this guy because of the style, the theatrical way he wrestles, right? I didn't know much of Ibushi before this, but, doing the research again, he's a baby face. He's kind of like got a semi-Hogan thing where he gets hit, and then he hits that limit and he starts to smile like Hogan did when he start to Hulk up, and then just comes back with some brutal assault. And apparently this has been he's developed this trademark through his matches up to this point. He's called the Golden Star. And Shinsuke himself had wrestled quite a lot of, apparently he'd highlighted or main evented 6 of the pay-per-views in 2014. So certainly a big name in international wrestling. And I know people were probably trading matches that couldn't get their copies or their hands on it amongst each other to enjoy his style and his way of wrestling.
Yeah, I mean, at this point, Nakamura had already wrestled Brock Lesnar when he was done with WWE at the time. He had come over to New Japan for a short stint, and he'd also wrestled Kurt Angle. So there's 2 names right there, right off the bat, that you're going to know. He did have a brief, I didn't put this in the notes, but I'll mention it. I mean, he did have a brief stint in TNA. I think he wrestled 1 match that didn't even make air. So
wow,
that was kind of during the time where TNA was bringing in New Japan talent that they had no idea what to do with. So that just tells you that a guy as hot as Nakamura in a dark match that didn't even make air. So a little footnote there, but yeah, he was well accomplished at this time. Yeah, as the youngest IWGP, he'd already been IWGP heavyweight champion multiple times, and the youngest one ever. Right. So Nakamura, well on his way to being the king of strong style here.
Yeah, one of the history on both of these guys, man, that's something Aaron does really well, bringing in the historical aspects of it. Please take it away, brother.
Okay, so we have to go back to the 2013 G1 Climax tournament where Kota Ibushi and Nakamura met in Block B of the tournament. Yeah, and that is, it's kind of like World Cup style. You got your different pools and your different, everybody plays each other round robin style, and then everybody wrestles each other, and then you get, winners from Block A, Block B, and then they wrestle each other, so to speak. Yeah. So Nakamura and Ibushi had a hell of a match here too. A lot of people say it's better than this one. I disagree, but it is a great match. And the finish is Nakamura hitting Ibushi with 3 Kinshasas. 3 Kinshasas. In 3 different ways too. He hit him on one off the second rope, one in the back of the head, and then of course one to the front. And that was it. But the G1 tournament was ultimately won by Naito, who is currently, at this time, I believe he is the IWGP Intercontinental Champion himself. So yeah, there you go. Naito, of course, had that hell of a match with Chris Jericho, but we're not here to talk about Naito. We'll jump ahead to the pay-per-view Power Struggle 2014, where Nakamura defended his title against Shibata. He retained the IWGP Intercontinental title, but in the post-match, he was attacked by Kota Ibushi, who then challenged Nakamura for his championship, even though Ibushi had really just jumped up to this heavyweight weight class. He'd always been in the open weight, like one of the younger guys, one of the smaller guys, but he really boosted himself up to take a match with Nakamura here and bring the fight to Nakamura, because Nakamura is this dude's already been champion. He's the Intercontinental champion. He's on a hell of a roll. And here comes this young guy, Ibushi, and says, I want my shot at your title. And really put an ass whooping on Nakamura at Power Struggle 2014. So, of course, that sets us up for Wrestle Kingdom 9, where we're going to see that title defense.
This is such an unusual pairing, right? Because, like you said, he's already Nakamura, the youngest champion at this time for this, or had been when he got the belt. And Ibushi is just a little bit younger than him. So this is an interesting, people are like looking at Nakamura like he's the veteran in this situation. I guess technically he is, but overall wise, he really isn't age wise. So this makes for and plus Kota attacking Nakamura, that's so against the normal rules of professional wrestling, where the babyface attacks the heel to challenge the heel to the belt. So I found that to be a fascinating thing about the history going into this match. And it immediately made me excited to watch the match with both of these guys. And we should point out the IWGP Intercontinental Championship was first created and won by MVP, right? He won the first iteration, I think, of this thing. MVP of all people. He took that thing, I think it was in San Francisco or somewhere in the States. He won it. And then, of course, eventually Nakamura found his way to winning that belt as well. And this is also the launch of Ibushi into the heavyweight division afterwards. So that is what was coming in to the match as well. Am I right on that, Aaron?
You're dead on. Yeah, that's it. That's why it was such a shock, because Ibushi was this young guy, smaller guy, and then he's jumping up here big time in the weight class.
Yeah, but he looked big. He looked big.
He looked jacked.
To step in.
He looked jacked for sure.
Yeah, for Nakamura. Listen, we got a super chat that came in from Tommy Tom. Tommy Tom says Kota is underrated. I feel because there's not a lot of U.S. exposure. Definitely, I think is what he's trying to say. Definitely should check him out. Him versus Omega before NJPW. Much loved, strong style. Thank you, Tommy. Appreciate that, man. It's very kind. We will absolutely check that. I'm never I'm never resistant to seeing a match that is great. You know, I may not know all the history going into the match, but what I'm looking at is to see how incredible the match actually is. So that could be a lot of fun to see. And of course, shout out to Chris Scorpio, who's joining us as well live. Yo, what's up? Thank you to J-Dog. Tommy Tom as well, who's up in here having some fun. So yeah, we have like 9 people in here, but you know, we're trying to do this thing live and see how it rolls, see how it goes, see if this is the right time slot for it, but definitely live so that you all can send in your questions, ask us anything about the world of professional wrestling or whatever, as we talk about this match and revisit it and dive deep into what happened during the match. So any other background before we jump into this thing, Aaron?
Just a quick note, Ibushi and Kenny Omega were a great tag team in New Japan. The Golden Lovers was their name. Think of that what you will. But yeah, there was a lot of speculation about Ibushi leaving for AEW when Kenny Omega left New Japan Pro Wrestling, and it just didn't work out. I think he just wanted to stay and prove himself in New Japan, and that's something that he's done quite well. The guy is a huge star on his way to definitely be the IWGP Heavyweight Champion at some point soon.
Yeah, and that says volumes about the fact that he got these matches in early, kind of probably set him on to that trajectory in where he is now. And that's also interesting when you look at, you know, someone is a star in one country doesn't mean they're going to transfer over and become a star in another country. So those are the things that you kind of discover as you get deeper into professional wrestling, how sometimes it's just situational. Sometimes just the bookers and the creatives not knowing what to do with a character like that or a wrestler like that. And it goes by the wayside. Then they go back to home to figure out to be in a better situation for themselves. All right. So this thing starting out, and did you now? Is it JR? It's JR and Stryker who are calling this?
Yeah,
thing,
JR
right?
and Stryker. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not always the biggest fan of JR when he calls NJPW, but I actually enjoyed him in this one. I think he did a nice job, brought in some historical stuff. Was shocked at the knee shots from Shinsuke and so much that he brought here. And Stryker wasn't too bad either. I'm not always the biggest fan of Stryker at Lucha, but I thought they kind of worked well together.
Well, I think the difference here is that when JR would do the New Japan show on Access TV, it would be his commentary would be dubbed over. Well, he would do it in a studio, so the match had already happened, and then he would come in and do the commentary. But for Wrestle Kingdom events, he was there live. So I think that's the big difference between the two. So JR being there live and feeling the crowd and feeling different things probably sounds a way different than when they would do it on Access TV with him and Josh Burnett or whoever they would have in there doing it. But yeah, definitely a big difference. Kind of caught me off guard when the match first started that JR was doing the commentary. It's like, oh yeah, I remember that. But, I remember his time there. But I'm with you, man. Like sometimes JR on commentary, even today in AEW, I'm just like, we're not getting peak JR anymore, and that's fine. That's whatever. I mean, he's just doing his thing. But yeah. But I will tell you, the first thing I noticed about this match, other than that commentary culture shock, was a lot more mat-based wrestling than I'm used to seeing from Nakamura. I'm used to seeing a lot of strikes, and of course you get that. But damn, dude, he was like rolling around like this was an amateur wrestling match, going for the 2 points on the takedown there. Did you catch that?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, right at the beginning, you get the sense that this is a different approach, and he's going to beat this kid. He's going to walk through this kid, but he's going to toy with this kid. That's kind of the heel approach to it. And by the way, JR talking about Freddie Mercury and Michael Jackson being these influential figures in Nakamura's life is very interesting to think about as well. When he walks down with that crown, with those spikes coming out of that crown and the red cape. Look, the man is incredible at presentation and theatricality. That's one of the reasons why I love that guy. guy. I need to bring some of that to the Schmodown. Maybe once I retire the outlaw persona, I can create some other persona that's just like Shinsuke, because I really enjoy the way he does things. So he goes into this ring and he fights. When he's starting out, you're right, a lot of mat-based stuff, a lot of like wrestling moves. Maybe at the time he was getting a little bit of crap for the strong style stuff. Maybe people were thinking that doesn't really wrestling, it's just a bunch of strong shots. We hear that all the time with Hogan and with Cena. Oh, the 5-move wrestler, those kinds of shots that are taken at popular wrestlers because they're not as technically sound as other people. But JR in the commentary seems to go do the work for Shinsuke a little bit by saying all the training in MMA, all the training in this or that, all the training in that or this, of all these different styles he's legitimately trained in, to kind of show that this guy is a legitimate wrestler with a lot of pedigree in terms of technique and expertise. So seeing him hit the mat early with Ibushi is not necessarily that much of a shock. It seems like that was a planned thing by both the organizers and JR and Shinsuke to make sure that they highlighted his wrestling ability.
Also worth pointing out that Nakamura did have an MMA fight in Pride. I forget who his opponent was. He didn't win, but he did actually fight an MMA contest, which is just kind of proves more to his authenticity as the king of strong style. But right away he's really taking control here until Ibushi hits this crazy inside out moonsault. Yeah. Which really, if you think about it, was made famous by La Sombra in New Japan Pro Wrestling, aka Andrade, which he's my guy. I love Andrade, so anytime I can mention him, I'm going to do it. Yeah. But yeah, I mean that really struck me as well. Like the effortless and fearlessness of just jumping. I'm going to jump on this. I'm not even going to like hold the ropes. Yeah. I'm just going to jump up here and then jump off, and hopefully somebody catches me. And he did, and it looked amazing. And then Ibushi Nakamura going back to the chain wrestling, just back and forth with that. Was really cool. But Ibushi really took control of this match for longer than I think I even realized. He was in control for a good more than half of this match.
Yeah, and he withstood the strikes. Look, and that's the thing when I watch New Japan is those strikes look so real. Those strikes look so hurtful. I mean, I don't know how you step on a dude's head and kind of like make it look that realistic, but supposedly holding back a little bit because some of those stomps on Ibushi's head were just brutal. And some of the stomps Ibushi delivered back to Nakamura were brutal as well. Another thing that's interesting throughout this match is that you have a tendency, because of your wrestling brain, your pro wrestling brain, to go, oh, once the person turns it around, they're going to really kind of like take over for a while. That's not always the case in this match. Like there are moments where Ibushi fights back from one move from Nakamura after he's beating him with 5 moves, and you think, oh, he's going to take the momentum back, and Nakamura just shuts him right back down and continues the onslaught. So back and forth, some really strong moves delivered to them. Yes, the moonsault is when we finally enter into like the high-paced action of the last few minutes of the match. It really is nonstop the last 10, 12 minutes of the match, just constant back and forth. Whereas the first few minutes of the match are kind of them feeling each other out, playing to the crowd, playing to each other. We have Ibushi making fun of Nakamura's way he kind of stomps on people and shakes his head around in the corner, all of that, and then only to have it reversed and done on him. Okay. So the interesting thing about Ibushi too, and I want to see what your thoughts on this, Aaron, he doesn't show a lot of emotion. Like even when he's getting his butt kicked, he's just like, there's not a lot of like, there was that one moment on the ropes when he got kicked off by Nakamura when he was laid across the corner. But other than that, you didn't hear too much from him throughout. And then, of course, it leads to that smile. So maybe this is all part of his act.
I did notice that. And something else that caught me was when he's sitting there and he's literally like smacking the shit out of Nakamura, like slapping him to know just, oh my God, good Lord. And then he chops Nakamura a couple times, and Nakamura like just kind of like, whatever, just kind of waves it off, which I love. But yeah, you're right. Like on the counter side, he didn't really show too much emotion. Yeah. He just looked like he was there to fight. He wasn't there to really play to the crowd very much. And maybe that was by design, like you said. Maybe that's a way to do it without getting too much in the way of fan interruption. You just kind of doing your own thing, and hopefully it comes to play because New Japan Pro Wrestling is a lot more story in match base, and
Right.
like WWE, where they get a lot of their story from outside vignettes or backstage interviews or like crazy theatrics that they do.
Yeah.
New Japan does that too, but they do a lot more in the ring than they're going to do backstage.
Yeah, I mean, I want to take a weekend where I just deep dive into multiple New Japan matches, including a lot of the Kenny Omega stuff, which I still haven't watched. I certainly want to watch a lot of the Kenny Omega stuff, and that Jericho return where he became the heel with the painted face and all of that. Love to see more of those kind of matches get into the NJPW stuff. But like you said, Aaron, when you get that app, it's just kind of really all over the place. And unless you speak Japanese, it's tough to follow along what's happening. The matches may be great, but you don't get the storylines leading into the match as strongly as you do like on other apps that follow the professional wrestling and what have you. This is incredible. Tommy Tom, what a fantastic donation here to
wow, Tommy.
Tommy, thank you. He said, hey, brothers, I'm blessed to still be able to work at the grocery store and saved money from comedy shows here in New York City. So no problem showing support to my fellow wrestling fans. Very kind, Tommy. Love you guys covering all great wrestling because there is amazing wrestling outside the WWE. So true. That's happened, for decades in professional wrestling. Even Hogan used to fight in Japan. My favorite Hogan shirt that he sells at the beach shop, which Aaron won't buy me, is the Hogan Japan shirt. It's so incredible.
It's closed. It's not essential business.
I don't know. I mean, a pro wrestling essential. But yeah, that is my favorite. I think it's the Ichiban shirt where he is there, Hogan in Japan. That's awesome shirt. So yeah, pretty cool stuff. And we want to cover all the facets of wrestling. That's what Strong Style is. All the facets of wrestling. That's why I gave it that international title of Strong Style from Japan, that kind of vibe to it. So Tommy Tom, thank you so much for that donation. And real quick, we have a Streamlab also from Chris Scorpio. He said, dream matches, Eddie Guerrero versus Ricky Steamboat, AJ Styles versus Bret Hart / Shawn Michaels, Daniel Bryan versus Dean Malenko. So interesting.
I would watch any of those. I would. The Dean Malenko, the Dean Malenko one kind of caught me off guard, but yeah, I want that one for sure. I would actually want that one the most.
I think I'd have to go Ricky Eddie for just the visual aspect and eyeballing, but I think that's a very close second, Daniel Bryan versus Malenko, because of the technical expertise of those guys. So absolutely, brother, I'm down with you on that situation. Ferris Mathuna, very kind with another donation here, and Muthana rather. NJPW is crazy, man. Sometimes they actually hit each other on purpose. Yeah, can you verify that, Aaron? Is that what really happens there between these guys?
Yeah, and I forget the guy's name. I think it's Takahashi. Mm-hmm. I apologize if I'm getting that wrong, but I believe he got headbutted and it caused like some kind of brain damage, or not like it jostled his skull or caused some kind of brain bleeding. He hadn't wrestled for like a year or two. Like it was, even if he came back to wrestling, but yeah, he's one of those guys that just will actually headbutt you. And this is one of those times where it just, that's not the rules are different in New Japan than they are in WWE. I don't know what their concussion protocol is, that they have one.
Yeah.
But
good
yeah,
point.
Damn. Yeah, that definitely did happen. That they will hit you for
real. And it looks like it. That's for sure. That's for sure. All right, let's keep going with the match, Aaron. Well, what else occurs at this stage now as we're seeing things start to turn and get a little more action oriented?
So some crazy stuff happens on the Ibushi side. He goes with that top rope hurricanrana, which, if you've watched his matches, he does it. That's his trademark thing. He did it to Will Ospreay, and Will Ospreay caught himself, and then he did it back to him. It's just a really cool sequence. If you hadn't seen, it's awesome. Yeah. Then Ibushi hit Nakamura with a German suplex from the apron to the inside, which looked absolutely brutal. Yeah. Dropped him right on his neck. But then again, Nakamura just pops up out of nowhere, hits a Falcon Arrow, and then the I have so much trouble saying that. The Kinshasa right to the face of Ibushi for the win, and Nakamura retains. But damn, that German, I thought we were done. I thought Nakamura was done when he hit that German, but then the Falcon Arrow out of nowhere, and like damn, dude. Yeah, just that Kinshasa just looks so brutal every time.
Yeah, it's one of those kind of underappreciated finishers. because you get the stunner, you get the pedigree, but the Kinshasa, man, when that hits your head, I don't know how you don't. It's almost like Randy Orton when he was being the legend killer. He'd set up those punts to the head and get those victories. It's almost akin to that kind of violent, brutal finisher that kind of walks that line between bar fight and technical wrestling, to be honest with you. And that's what's scary about it. Because imagine running at someone full speed and just launching your shin into their neck or their head. I mean, imagine that reaction, or the kick. All of that involved in the Kinshasa, it looks brutal. But I'd be remiss not to mention some other stuff that happened in the match as well. Before we get to that finish, there was that great kick by Nakamura in midair, to catch Ibushi, which was fantastic. Also, Ibushi, I think the German suplex from outside the apron and flip. I mean, even JR went nuts when he saw that one. He's like, I didn't know you could do that. He was like, that's it. Right. And then JR, of course, talking about all the multiple knee hits that Nakamura is so good at doing, and that leads to them kind of running into each other knee first. I mean, that double move that they do where they miss swiping at each other and then hit each other and then miss swiping and then hit each other again, that is badass. I don't know if I've ever seen anything like that. And so there was so much about this match that I just was thoroughly enjoying from a technical, these matches don't get me emotionally where I'm like cheering. It's more just awe. I'm watching in awe these guys and their technical ability and their chemistry and their willingness to take such brutal pounding. I mean, Nakamura stomping on Ibushi's head as his head is outside the ropes is just phenomenally brutal. And then you see Ibushi plainly step on Nakamura's face before he turns him over and just starts stomping on the back of his head. So all that stuff is just brutal. And then the closed fist punches. I don't know how you pull back on something like they look so obviously like it's actually happening in that moment. The closed fist shots, even the JR is like, that's not legal in regular wrestling, but they're doing it here.
Yeah, I can tell you for sure that at NXT shows, when the volume is down, I like to be a little bit of a heckler. Not gonna lie, like when they're grab somebody in the corner and they're throwing fists, it's real quiet. Like my trademark thing to yell at NXT show is watch the closed fist ref. Like I do it all the time. Like I don't know, it pops me, it makes me laugh. But as we've heard in the chat, apparently some of those punches are real. So
yeah.
Who knows? I guess we've got a little Rob Van Dam action going on here. But yeah, it's also worth mentioning that Ibushi, I believe it was the G1 Climax match, he did the Kinshasa to Nakamura.
Yeah.
And that was pretty badass too. Like, I don't know how he learned it. I don't know if Nakamura taught him how to do it. It would make sense. But like you said, those knees can look brutal. Like Daniel Bryan does that running knee and it looks great. And Sasha does a running knee that looks great. And then Drew McIntyre does that drop kick, that Claymore, and makes it look absolutely brutal. So you got to be a really good technician to pull that off.
Yeah. I mean, Michaels' kick has always been one of the, for me, I'm not always the biggest Shawn Michaels fan, but I do enjoy that finisher of his when he lands it flush and you hear the smack. When you hear the smack correlating at the right time, I love it. I don't like when wrestlers throw the spit in the air when they get kicked like that, but I get the effect of doing that. But to me, it takes away from the beauty of that brutal move that it can be and can show, because I mean, being knocked out is being knocked out. You're not getting up. So that's interesting when you're seeing this. But yeah, dude, these guys just beat the living crap out of each other. And it's a shame the way it ends with him just completely out. It isn't one of those kind of like beat him into submission things. He literally just knocked him out with the Kinshasa after recovering from the double knee shots, both of them hitting each other in their knees or in their shins rather, and making the adjustment. But yeah, so much high flying stuff here. Or we're not really so much, but enough to enjoy. And then the brutality, ground based stuff in the ring.
Yeah, something for everybody in this match. It felt like a rivalry match. It felt like these two guys had an issue that they needed to squash. Without really having interviews where they're getting in each other's face or saying, you kicked my dog, I'm going to kick your ass or something like that. They didn't have to do any of that. They told all of that story in the ring. Like we knew these guys didn't like each other. Yeah. And they showed us why, and they blew it off in this match. It was great.
Yeah. Do you think that was any real animosity between these guys, or do you think it was more about like just kind of playing the roles?
No, not at all. I think they're playing the roles. If anything, Nakamura helped Ibushi here a lot to have such a high profile former champion kind of give their stamp of approval and put this, it's a losing effort from Ibushi, but like we've talked about before, you can get over in a loss. Like that happens a lot. And I think for Ibushi here, that did nothing but help him. And I'm sure Nakamura didn't mind, helping him along.
Yeah. Yeah. Why is it called the IWGP versus the WWE Intercontinental? Why isn't it called the NJPW Intercontinental Championship? Is there a reason for that? Do you know?
There is. Oh man, I actually don't know off the top of my head.
Okay.
So we'll have to skip that for another time. But I don't know why. There's different Japan factions. There's All Japan Pro Wrestling. There's Michinoku Pro. There's DDT Pro. There's all these different Japan organizations. But I think it's some kind of international something. But
yeah, apparently I looked it up real quick. It says it's the initialism of NJPW's governing body, the International Wrestling Grand Prix. The title was introduced in 1983 for the winner of the IWGP League, 1983. Since then, the championship was defended annually against the winner. The first champion was Hulk Hogan, and also the youngest champion, Hulk Hogan. This is the IWGP Heavyweight Championship, the original version. The final champion was Antonio Inoki in '86. So that must have been the first iteration of it. So how interesting is that?
There have been a lot of American IWGP champions. Hulk Hogan, Stan Hansen, Vader, and then
Vader.
You got Brock Lesnar, Kurt Angle, like we said, and AJ Styles as well. So I mean, it's happened. Kenny Omega, it's happened.
Yeah. So this particular title they were fighting for here, the IWG Intercontinental Championship. As I said earlier, I'll give you some more dates. It was officially announced on January 5th, 2011, and the inaugural champion was crowned on May 15th, 2011, during NJPW's first tour of the United States. I have a very vague recollection that I might have watched that on Access TV or something, maybe in my old place. The current champion is Naito, Tetsuya Naito, and the title forms what has unofficially been called the New Japan Triple Crown. Wow, so interesting in the reigns. Let's see. The MVP was the first champion, then Nakamura, then Naito are tied for the most reigns with 5 times each. They've won the belt 5 times. Nakamura holds the record for the longest reign of the title at 313 days. Naito's second reign of 41 days is the shortest in the title's history, and Naito is the first, having defeated Jay White.
Switchblade Jay White. That's right.
Jay White. What are we talking about? Very interesting. You know what was great too about this match, Aaron, was the Tokyo Dome, man. I mean, somebody asked this the other day of us on one of the live streams on the Schmodown. They're like, well, where would you want to do a live Schmodown? And I said, Japan. I'd love to do it in the new Tokyo.
That'd be crazy.
Dome. I mean, would that be insane with the Outlaw and those big ass Titantrons and walking down the ramp for 80,000 people or however many Tokyo Dome holds? It probably never going to happen, but it's nice to dream. And I love the presentation here of Wrestle Kingdom 9. I wouldn't be surprised if there are fans out there who look forward to Wrestle Kingdom more than WrestleMania because the matches might be of better quality overall.
No doubt about it. I mean, you could call Wrestle Kingdom the WrestleMania of Japan if you wanted to be kind of an asshole about it, but it's really there. It's really its own thing, man. Us Americans, we have the Super Bowl, and that this is like way beyond that for Japan and international wrestling. Yeah. So Wrestle Kingdom is just become every year it gets bigger and bigger and bigger, especially when you add Jericho, when you add Omega. And you've got Okada and Tanahashi and the Young Bucks and whoever you're going to bring in to be there. And with all these WWE releases, who knows who may show up at a Wrestle Kingdom in the future. But it's got nothing but bigger. With stars like Nakamura, Ibushi, AJ Styles putting their stamp on it. Yeah, it just keeps getting bigger and bigger.
That's true. Well, let's hit some of these, and then we'll talk about the aftermath and the legacy of the match here. Some more super chats. Ferris Mathana. When Sean kicked Shelton Benjamin, I thought he killed him on Raw.
It's the single greatest clip in Monday Night Raw history, in my opinion. I will watch it anytime it's on, like 50 times, because it's so perfect. Shelton does it perfectly. Yeah. Sean sells it perfectly. The crowd is perfect. The shot that they had for it was perfect. It's absolutely if you don't know what he's talking about, dude,
Yeah.
like, oh my God. Like and JR on the call is just it's perfect. Like everything about that is perfect. And I don't know how Shelton Benjamin didn't become a world champion after that, because that's some amazing stuff in that clip.
Oh man. I'm gonna watch it real quick because it's a 10-second
Oh
clip.
God, please.
Oh my God. Oh my God. Well, it's kind of reminiscent of what we see in the match here with that kick from Nakamura into a beat as he's coming off the top rope there. So that's reminiscent in that. So yeah, certainly those, like I said,
kick the shit out of him.
Really
like
Sweet Chin is the
and
best.
JR on the call is just, oh God, it's so good. He's like, oh my God.
He killed him. He killed him.
He probably did kill him. I got to make a quick correction real quick before you get to more of them.
Sorry.
I said that United States people, and I said Kenny Omega. I know he's Canadian. I know he's from Winnipeg. Sorry.
Right.
Sorry about that, guys.
We all know. All right. Tom donates some more. Thank you, Tommy. It's very kind of you. You're being incredible today, man. Dream matches, NJPW versus WWE. Gorillas of Destiny with Haku versus the Usos with Rikishi. Ooh, interesting. The Gorillas of Destiny. Will Ospreay versus AJ Styles and Naito versus Andrade, since Andrade really made Naito who he is now from days in AAA, I believe. Hit that like and donate, people. Yes, thank you, Tommy. I appreciate it. Yeah, hit the like button on this. Even if you're just listening, even if you're watching this in retrospect or like after we've recorded this live, please hit the like button and get us as many likes on this as possible. This is our experiment of doing the show live. I don't know if this is the right time. We'll see how many people we had. A lot of people join us on Friday. Maybe Friday's the better time, but I thought this is normally when we drop the show, so I thought we'd have some fun on a Wednesday afternoon and talk about stuff.
Well, let me address Tommy Tom real quick.
Yeah, please.
First of all, thank you, dude. Amazing $70.
Yeah.
So far, but let me talk about that Gorillas of Destiny and Usos match, which is something that family warfare. I like it. Tamatonga Loa versus Jimmy and Jay with Haku and Rikishi. Yeah, sign me up for that. I will take 2 helpings of that. Will Ospreay doing anything? I mean, could you imagine a match where it was Will Ospreay versus AJ Styles versus, like, I don't know, Ricochet or somebody like that? Like, unbelievable. And of course, you're talking about Andrade or La Sombra versus Naito. I'll anything that Andrade is going to do, or after Naito's matches with Jericho, sign me up for it. All good picks. I would love to see any of them.
You're all about it. So am I. There's some nice choices here. Ferris Mathon donated a little bit more here. Said, Aaron and John, do you remember when TNA and NJPW cross promoted, or am I remembering it wrong?
No, you're right. We talked about it a little bit because Nakamura did have a dark match in TNA, and I remember they had Okada there, and they really did not use Okada at all, like in a good way. Like, I believe he was losing like 3 out of 4 matches or some crazy crap like that. Like TNA did not know what they had.
Yeah.
And TNA made so many good products, like Bobby Roode, AJ Styles, like all these good competitors, and then they just dropped the boat on Okada, Nakamura, CM Punk, the Young Bucks. Like, they had all this fresh talent, and for whatever reason, it just did not work. But yeah, they've collaborated, but more so these days you see New Japan collaborating with Ring of Honor, doing their G1 Climax shows. But yeah, you're right.
Yeah, and we see what TNA with NWA for a little bit too, collaborating back and forth, if I remember correctly, with that. Hugo Chavez says, here to support, even though I don't regularly follow wrestling. Thank you, Hugo. I appreciate it.
My man.
It's very kind of you. Yeah. Salvador Navarrete says, I'm here, Rocha and Aaron. All right, Salvador.
All right, buddy.
Thank you. Also, that's a better hat, Rocha. I represent with the same hat here in Vegas. Oh, all right.
Okay, that. Fine. I got a future Super Bowl champion, but okay.
Yeah. Let's take that quick. Well, all right. Let's finish out the conversation before we jump into a little bit. So it was over. Nakamura retains. I think a lot of people thought Ibushi might retain because he had lost to Nakamura earlier, but certainly Nakamura takes care of business here. What happens afterwards to both of these guys, Aaron?
We got Ibushi. Of course, he comes out. This is his big match as heavyweight. We talked about Nakamura putting him over. He'd go on to win the 2015 New Japan Cup, the 2019 G1 Climax, He'd go on to win the IWGP Intercontinental Championship from Naito at the 2019 G1 Supercard. That was the collaborative event I was talking about with Ring of Honor. It's also worth mentioning in there that Ibushi did compete in WWE for a minute in the Cruiserweight Classic. He defeated Sean Maluda, Cedric Alexander, and Brian Kendrick before losing to TJ Perkins in the semifinals, who ended up winning the whole thing.
Right.
So it's worth noting. For Shinsuke Nakamura, of course, Wrestle Kingdom 10, he would defeat AJ Styles in that crazy, crazy match to retain his IC title. Gave New Japan his notice the same day that he was leaving for WWE. On April 1st, 2016, he would defeat Sami Zayn in his debut at NXT TakeOver Dallas. If you haven't seen just the entrance, it's unbelievable.
The match itself is unbelievable.
It's a great match, too.
Yes,
but his entrance, if you see nothing else, his entrance is unreal.
Yeah.
And then, of course, Nakamura would end up capturing the NXT Championship, the US Championship, the WWE Intercontinental Championship, and win the 2018 Royal Rumble. So he's doing all right. He's doing all right in there. So both these guys, huge stars.
I was reading a review and someone's like, oh, before he went to New York and ceased to care. I think Nakamura does care. I think he's just playing out the string here. He's on a contract. We were watching, I know we can't talk too much about it, but I watched Dark Side of the Ring last night. The Dino Bravo won the assassination of Dino Bravo. And one of the guys said that when Dino left his federation that he was running and he was booking and he was doing his thing, jumping into WWF was, at the time, WWF was one of the toughest things for him because he was no longer in control of his character. And the thing is, and they actually have the Mountie. The Mountie is one of the people they interview throughout the episode. He talks about the fact that it was the hardest thing for Dino because when you go to the WWE, you are just a pawn on the overall game. You are not, dictating terms unless you get to that mountaintop where you can, because you're just kind of a number once you're down a little bit below the main people. And you get that with Shinsuke. They gave him a shot. They give him opportunities. They give him titles, and then they just take it away so much so that he's now Sami Zayn's lackey, which is a little weird to me overall. So I don't know what the point is. And the same thing with Asuka, right? What's the point? I feel like some of these federations, they grant these Japanese wrestlers, but then they're afraid to let them be better than their American talent or their talent from wherever, from Canada or whatever. They're just afraid to let them take center stage. I don't know if it's because on the mic or their issues with the acting or whatever. They just never let them quite have these runs that they should have. And Nakamura is a phenomenal wrestler, but who is going to meet him at the level that he wrestles at when you watch something like this Ibushi match? Who is there at WWE that would be allowed to deliver as brutal of a match to him other than Andrade, who also coming out of NJPW as well, La Sombra, as you mentioned, seeing those guys go at it for real without any of the barriers of making it family-friendly entertainment, that would be incredible. But he can't do it. So he's collecting the paycheck, making his money, doing what he can. But certainly, hopefully in the future, he's done with this thing and he goes back and at the twilight of his career, we get some more incredible final matches that show what he can really do with his skills.
I've heard, I think Taz talk about this before. He was talking about the reason that he doesn't think that Nakamura is succeeding in WWE is because it's one of the things you said, his microphone work. And it's not that he's not good on the mic. Of course, he can be in small doses, but he's not a native English speaker. Right. And that's, that is a problem. That's an issue. That's the same issue that Andrade has. He's not a native speaker. Right. He speaks Spanish. So it's kind of hard. That's why he has Zelina Vega as a mouthpiece, and she's excellent. Yeah, she is. How great has she been over the past month? But that withstanding, Nakamura is a guy that, you probably need to put in with a mouthpiece. So like they have with Sami Zayn and Cesaro, maybe that is the difference. And then he could come in there and say something at the end. I mean, he knows how to speak a little English. I don't know how much I'm sure he's learned more since he's been in NXT. Yeah. But the same thing with Kairi Sane, the same thing with Asuka. They're not native speakers, so they can't talk you into the building. Right. I can sit here and listen to Drew McIntyre, and he'll get on the mic and he'll say, I'm going to kick Andrade's ass and I'll see you in Poughkeepsie this week and I'll kick your ass all over Poughkeepsie. Okay, I'll buy a ticket. But I can't have Nakamura tell me that I'm going to come to Poughkeepsie. I can't do that wooden delivery. I need somebody that's going to get me excited and want me to buy a ticket to go. Yeah. And unfortunately, that's just not something he could do in the U.S. market. Now, in the international market, holy shit, yeah, of course you want Nakamura doing that kind of stuff. No one ever will question his in-ring ability. I don't think you can at this point, but I think it is worth noting that it is going to be more difficult for him. And WWE seems to want to do this thing. They've done it since the 80s, since it became the WWF, that any kind of foreign person, they got to be the heel. Nakamura's got to turn heel and Asuka's got to be a heel. Like they can't, the foreigner's got to be the heel. So I don't know what the hell is up with that in 2020. Like, I think we can pretty much put that to bed. But yeah, I mean, just a couple things are holding Nakamura back from being the greatest. I mean, he won the Royal Rumble, so they had to have some stock in him. At that point, I don't know what happened, but
right. Great point. True. And we'll see as this goes along where they end up, if they end up giving him another run. We'll see. And guys, please, the Streamlabs and Super Chats are still open. So we're probably got another 10 minutes left in the show or a little bit more than that. And then we're going to wrap this thing up because it's a live show. But would love it if you guys could send in some Streamlabs and Super Chats, more questions that you might have for us to answer. Jack Kelly saying, Jack Kelly, I'm a lawyer, says, happy to finally catch Strong Style live. That is awesome. Thank you. Let's see. J-Dog says WWE has never been ready for Asuka.
This is true.
This is very true. Oh yeah, they paired Okada with Samoa Joe. Oh wow, I remember that. That would be fun. Let's see. WWE. Tommy Tom says WWE isn't good with the Asian talent on the main roster. When Vince gets them, Triple H knows their value better. Yeah. Yeah, and that's the thing, and hopefully, eventually down the road, we will get a Vince McMahon kind of led revolution for wrestling overall. One of the things you put in your notes, and I think you just highlighted it, but I want to talk about it a little bit more, is that Ibushi. Why wasn't he allowed to win the Cruiserweight Classic, or why don't they just bring him back and put him into a position where he is wrestling against these kind of intercontinental champ? Why isn't Ibushi being used here? Is it the same thing? Is it the language thing?
No, I think for that particular iteration, I think they had him just for a short time. I think he was in between contracts with New Japan, so they could have him for just a little bit. There for a minute, he was like freelance for hire, but if you're going to be Cruiserweight champion, you're going to have to make all the shows and all that different stuff. And he was going back to New Japan anyway. I think he was very smart in his business sense to get shown to a broader audience. Same thing with Zack Sabre Jr., who's a British wrestler, but also wrestles in New Japan. He was also in the Cruiserweight Classic. So that kind of, it puts fresh eyes on you. It's just a business move is all that was.
Yeah, I guess that's fair. Yeah. Maybe he didn't sense that this was going to be a long-term thing. So he's happy to take the loss because he's like, I'll wrestle for a few rounds and then I'll roll on back to NJPW. This one from Cliff Elor. He says, as far as wrestling, do you think it appeals to kids as much as to regular fans? Just curious. Aaron?
I think so. I'm going to say yes, because every show that I've gone to has had kids in the crowd that have gone out of their mind enjoying it. I watched it when I was a kid. I mean, I've watched wrestling since I was like 6 or 7 years old. So I can only speak it from my perspective. It's been my life since then, pretty much. So I will say yes. I don't know how. I think the WWE or F definitely lost some kids from 97 to 99 during that Attitude Era. I think a lot of kids were pushed out at that time to go for an older audience, but I think they've gained them back with your John Cena's and your whoever you got that's on top right now. Your Drew McIntyre's, a big baby face, big merch seller. I think your Natalia's and don't undersell the advent of Total Divas. Like, this is a show that a lot of young women watch, and we've got a lot of young women brought in as wrestling fans, and that's only a good thing.
Yeah, true. I think it's always going to appeal to kids. I know a lot of friends who still pass the pro wrestling love to children because essentially it is made for kids in this way. Good versus evil, very basic approach to the world. Good versus evil. It's only later on as you get older that you understand the world's a bit more grayer, and that's when you start to find the more brutal matches, the more brutal characters, the more interesting gray-laced characters, so that you can follow them in that way. That's why the Attitude Era became so popular, because those kids who are grown up in the WWE that are in the 80s era were like teenagers or in their early 20s, and they wanted something that reflected their skepticism of the world. We were done with the popcorn 80s. Yeah, there was a Cold War, but all the music is like synthesizer, and you've got shoulder pads, and you've got like, those bright colors in those paintings. So everything is very excess in the 80s and childlike and playful in the 80s. Then you get to the 90s and you get like gangster rap, and you get like, real stuff going on here in the world wars, things like that in the 90s. And so people wanted a more brutal, more honest, more real wrestling characters, more gray areas of those wrestlers. So you get into, you can always find your way to professional wrestling as a kid. I know in the audience, like you just said, Aaron, you could watch any Raw or SmackDown back when they had audiences. You see kids all over the place. So kids get into this stuff still at this time in professional wrestling history. Yeah. It's still there.
I don't know how easy it is for a kid to get into it these days because you have so many distractions and so many things going on. Fair. It's like, dude, are you going to put down a video game to watch a 3-hour Raw? I don't know. Probably not. Are you going to stop skateboarding to watch a 3-hour wrestling show? I don't know. I don't know what else kids do. Are you going to stop dancing on TikTok enough to watch a 3-hour Raw? I don't know. Maybe. As a kid these days, I don't know, man, because I didn't. It was different entertainment. Like that's like what I tell my friends like that are single in the dating world. Like, what would you do in this? I'm like, dude, you grew up in the thing of Tinder and stuff. I was already married, and that was already past me. I have no idea how to date anybody these days. I would just be alone if I was divorced.
That's fair. Ferris Muthana donates more here. He says, that's why we could not get Rusev Day. I am still not over it. Why did they not put the title on Ibushi? They gave Okada a lengthy title run. Yeah, good question. Why didn't they give Ibushi the title?
I think that they may be on the way to doing that. So,
okay.
So hang in there. Like Okada and Tanahashi and these guys have been kind of trading the IWGP title for a while, and I think they're starting to turn to the good on Ibushi. I don't think it'll be too much longer.
Well, there you go. I don't disagree with you there at some point here. Hill Nellum says if he had signed, Ibushi would have won, but he decided not to. That's how we wound up with TJP as the winner. Bleh. Well, there you go.
What the hell? TJ Perkins as the winner of the Cruiserweight Classic. Like, I don't think anybody would have called that from the jump. But yeah, you're right. If contracts were no issue, it was going to be Ibushi and Zack Sabre Jr. in that final, no doubt about it.
Yeah. Well, that's you're the slave to those kinds of situations because of talent and timing. All of those things get factored in. Any last words to say about this match or where these guys are going at this point?
I see nothing but good things. Nakamura is a little bit different. I think the star is brighter for Ibushi at this time because, then again, like, is it really brighter for anybody at this time? I know that I will say this. I heard that this week that New Japan, since there have been no wrestling or layoffs, they've been paying all their talent. So, yay, good job, New Japan, not letting anybody go. And as far as Nakamura is concerned, like, it's only going to take one big match for this guy to come back at 1,000% and people to get behind him again. Just let's get some crowds back. Let's see what we can do to rework Nakamura. It's not dead yet. Yeah. He can easily turn on Sami Zayn, hit him with a Kinshasa, and then boom, you got a nice build for a feud there.
And back to face. I would love to see him back to being a face. I mean, I loved the entrances when he was face. So and the crowd would loved cheering for him when they gave him the stroke to be face and all of that. I agree, and we'll see as it goes on what happens to him. But he is the reason I was inspired to suggest the title to you, which you agreed to for the show, because I really enjoy the way Nakamura wrestles, and it was fun to see this match, which is one of those rare matches I haven't seen of his that is much heralded by a lot of wrestling fans. And so it was great to dive back into this and discover Ibushi, who I didn't know that much about before I started watching the match, and immediately became a fan of afterwards, and looked up his record and looked up his history since that match. And so that speaks volumes about how much of a legacy this match can still have. This match can still affect people when they watch it for the first time. I think someone made a comment about it. If I can bring it up, I don't know if I can find it here real quick. Where was it? This is my first. This is from Wackness 95. This is my first NJPW I ever watched, and man, oh man, is it incredible! Yeah,
no doubt. We'll be talking about it more for sure. I've been lining up some stuff on my spreadsheet. So
good.
There will be more.
Well, speaking of which, this is a weekly show, ladies and gentlemen. We'll occasionally do an extra show when we're doing a review or something like that, but this is going to be the weekly show live. Aaron and I going forward with a Strong Style. Maybe we'll just change it to Strong Style Live, which could be fun. And then Aaron and I will talk about one classic wrestling match every week. For those of you who are new to this, we have weeks of shows for you to catch up on that we've addressed one match every show, and of course it leads into other stuff, other conversations. But we wanted to open the door to have you all send in some Streamlabs and send in some super chats, send in some questions, so that Aaron and I can answer them and talk about them and do all of that with you all to kind of build the community, the pro wrestling community out of the Outlaw Nation and through Strong Style. So please tune in every week when we put these things in live. Get your questions ready, and Aaron and I have no problem answering them for you. What do we have coming up next, Aaron, over the next few weeks? What can you tease about the matches that we got coming up?
I can tell you that next week we are going outside of WWE yet again. We are going to Ring of Honor this time, and we're going to take out a classic match in the mini matches between Kevin Steen, or you may know him as Kevin Owens these days, versus El Generico, or you may know him as Sami Zayn these days. So we're going to do that next week. It's going to be awesome. A lot of people have been talking to me about that. I'm like, hey, you got to do this one. So we'll get to that one. And then the week after, a special treat. Rocha, you're really going to like this one.
Okay.
We're going to talk about, I think it's about time. We're going to have an Eddie Guerrero match on the show. It's about freaking time.
Yes.
Eddie Guerrero versus Rey Mysterio, Halloween Havoc 1997. One of the best matches in WCW history. It's going down.
Nice. Always good to see two Latinos going at it. I'm all aboard for that train, and even more so when this has nothing to do with Eddie's kid, which was a weird little storyline that I didn't 100% like. But
Ray's kid.
I'm sorry, Ray's kid, right? Ray's kid.
But
we thought it might be Eddie's kid. We didn't know. Yeah. No, it's okay. We thought it might be, but I think it was more known for the broken leg that Ray suffered more than anything else. But yeah, I'm looking forward to both of these matches. Of course, the Sami Zayn, Kevin Owens rivalry and friendship has developed its own legacy in professional wrestling over the last few years. So to see them going at it will be a lot of fun. Butana said, "Viva la raza." That's right, "Viva la raza," Holmes. I think I'm at that position, Aaron, where I might order myself an LWO shirt to wear on during. They got it. Yeah, they got it. Once I saw it, I was like, "Ooh, I gotta get that shirt." LWO.
They don't sell those at Hogan's Beach Shop.
No, they don't. No, they don't. Mukbang reviews a little bit here. He said, I enjoyed fighting with my family. Are there other wrestling movies I should check out? Any favorites? Thanks. Yeah, Aaron.
Of course, The Wrestler with Mickey Rourke. Great match.
Yep.
Great match. Great movie. If you need a good laugh, No Holds Barred with Hulk Hogan and Tiny Lister, aka Zeus. It's on Amazon Prime, so that's no problem to find. If you're talking about movies that have wrestlers in it, that's a little bit more difficult. I have to get back to you on that. But as far as wrestling is concerned, The Wrestler with Mickey Rourke, No Holds Barred, or even there's actually The Wrestler from back in the day. I believe it was made in the 60s with Vern Gagne's in it. So maybe check that out. It's pretty good. The Ric Flair 30 for 30. I don't know if that really counts as a movie, but we'll count it. It's excellent. If you could find
according to Triple H, not half of what he said wasn't true. So to me, it's fiction that makes it a movie.
Yeah. Okay. All right, Triple H, whatever you say, pal. But it depends on what you're looking for. If you want a movie about the business, then I would recommend The Wrestler and No Holds Barred for its silliness. And then if you're looking for something a little more history-wise, I would check out, I believe it's Memphis Heat is about the history of Memphis wrestling, which is really great. And then you have all the WWE revisionist history documentaries about the the AWA, WCW, all that kind of stuff. If you're looking for history, that should satiate you for a while. And then by the time you need more, I'll be ready for you.
There you go. Beyond the Mat is another great document dropped on Netflix. So if you've never seen that legendary documentary, you should definitely watch that. I think Peanut Butter Falcon was a fantastic movie about kind of pro wrestling. The kid wanting to become a pro wrestler. It's a nice independent film, really well done. I thought, and I will absolutely stand for Nacho Libre. I don't care what anyone says. I enjoyed Nacho Lucha Libre a lot. So that could be a fun one for you to enjoy as well.
I do like fighting with my family as well. I think it's a good one. I really like fighting with my family.
Yeah, damn right. It's really good. And one last one, I think you should definitely watch The Resurrection of Jake the Snake Roberts.
Yes.
That's a fantastic documentary that you can enjoy with your family, and not just for yourself, but with your family as well. So there's the recommendations for you. Mukbang, really appreciate it. By the way, a term I discovered only when I started doing the YouTube channel more full time.
I was like, mukbang. I know what that is, but yeah.
I had no idea there's a channel you could just eat and people watch you eat. It's such an interesting little thing.
I would have made millions of dollars, but it's also worth noting that that Florence Pugh in anything is good.
Yes.
Good Pugh is
Agreed.
My wife and I watched Midsommar the other day.
Oh, did you enjoy that?
I saw it in the theater, so she hadn't seen it yet, but she actually enjoyed it. She actually thought it was pretty good. So
it's an unusual film, so good that you enjoyed it. One last one before we wrap up here. Fairness Mathana, one last donation here. No Way Out 2004 is one of my favorite moments. It doesn't specify which moment, but I guess he's imagining Ray and
like the whole thing.
Yes, the whole damn thing, just from top to bottom. Great. Oh, Paul Heyman documentary and a lot of other WWE docs are really good, but yes, they're a little revisionist history in that way. Of course, you got Body Slam with Roddy Piper, Tonga Kid, and Dirk Benedict. I don't know if I'd recommend that one necessarily, but it is out there for people to enjoy. And I think there's a Henry Winkler one from the 70s where he became a pro wrestler. He's an actor who becomes a pro wrestler. I can't remember what the name of that one was.
Actually, I'm sorry to interrupt you. There is one that I kind of want to bring. I think it's on Netflix still. It's actually a WWE Studios movie, which don't let that scare you.
Okay.
It's called Legendary, and it has John Cena in it,
right?
And Patricia Clarkson. She's great in it, and it's about amateur wrestling, where John Cena is like this shitty guy, and he's like trying to teach his brother how to be an amateur wrestler. It's actually pretty decent. It's a decent watch. So if you can find it, Legendary, watch that one.
All right. Well, the film I'm referencing is Henry Winkler and Kim Darby, and the film is called The One and Only. It was directed by Carl Reiner. Yes, that Carl Reiner. And this is set in 1951. This guy Henry Winkler becomes a pro wrestler in the movie. So it's one of those ones I saw randomly and thoroughly enjoyed. Ferris Mathana clarifying said Eddie Guerrero winning. Sorry. That's what he meant. Of course. Absolutely. Totally agree, Ferris. All right, we got to wrap this thing up. We're at over an hour. Thank you all so much for watching us live here on Strong Style Live, I guess we'll call it. Please hit that like button, and please share this thing on your social media. Share the video, because when you share it, you're telling people you approve of this show as a pro wrestling fan, and so you should check it out as well. So that's I really appreciate that. Madly, please subscribe to the channels. We're trying to get above 20,000 subscribers on the Outlaw Nation, and doing more and more content to attract those subscribers and satisfy those subscribers as well. And also, Aaron, tell people where they can find you and reach you, my man.
Find me on Twitter at Only Aaron Turner. Thank you. Thanks, Jake. Thanks, Brian Ward, for all the good work that you guys do. And I appreciate that. And thanks, everybody, for tuning in. And see you next week or on Twitter. I'm taking a nap.
Absolutely. And maybe Aaron and I will watch the Big Show series on Netflix and do a review. God help us both. I watched that first episode. It was like shoving a nail through my brain. All right. Thank you all so much. Appreciate you joining us. Hope you enjoyed us breaking down this great match between Nakamura and Ibushi. And if you are just watching this for the first time, go back and watch the match and then hear our thoughts again and enjoy it from there. Until then, we will talk to you next time on Strong Style. Where is it? I don't have it. Do I have it?
Oh, no.
There it is. I'm going to talk about it. Sorry, guys. It's live. Strong Style. Doing it.